Hey guys, Barry here with Epic Cycles, joined today with Paul from Epic Cycles as well.
Hello.
Just got in our shipment of the 2023 Surron Storm Bees. You can check it out, order online on our website. Today we will be unboxing this beautiful bike, our first time as well, so stay tuned and join the fun in with us. So I'll let Paul take the lead here, and I'll help you out, Paul, and let's build this bike.
Thanks, Barry. Well, first thing we're going to do is cut off some of these straps. So you can use a knife, you might have a cutter of some kind. This will be the easiest part so far.
All right. Now we can, this box looks like it'll just slide right off. So let's
So the box just lifts right off, as Barry said. Up she goes.
Yeah. Let's move this away. So you can see that they've packaged it here in this steel, custom steel frame to protect the box very well, the bike rather. So now we're going to figure out how to remove this steel frame.
This will be the first time we've done a crate like this, so
Yeah.
it's definitely very involved. It's a very tough crate, all steel. And it has a few bits and pieces we need to undo.
Yeah,
So
looks
I'm
like
going
we
to
got
start with
some
a couple of combination wrenches. I'm going to figure out what size this bolt is. So it looks like this will be a 14 millimeter socket or combination wrench. So you got a bolt on each side pinching this brace here. The brace is supporting the handlebar and the handlebar stem.
Yeah, it looks like it's bolted right into the handlebar stem, huh?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is remove these bolts.
So that bolt's going directly into the stem on the top of the fork. Nice that they integrated everything that way without having extra bits and pieces that you don't need.
Want me to grab it here?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, now it's hand tight, yeah. Got it? Okay, good.
All right. Let's see if there's anything else. Nothing on this side. The bike is loose in the container now, and that's good. All right, we got a wheel that we need to detach. So I'm going to grab a side cutter.
We'll do the wheel first, yeah.
So one of these angle cutters will be handy, and we'll just cut the zip tie or wire, whatever they've offered. Looks like a wire this time. The wheel will just exit it out the backside. There's your front wheel. So you're going to have, by the looks of it, some junk we don't need. And then we got our axle spacers that are mounted to a wire.
They're oily.
So we'll just leave those in there because we don't want to lose them. And we'll just put this nice and neat off to the side. And
This is a optional front plate, I think, if you don't want the light, right? Because I think these ones come with the light now, I believe, and I believe that's what this is for, right?
yeah, so inside of here, you've got the bike completely wrapped in plastic.
Yeah.
Front plates there, a little bit more protection on it. There'll be some boxes down below. But the fun part's going to be getting this frame apart. So this will be the first time doing this. Bear with us. Enjoy the fun.
I think we'll probably need this guy by the looks of it.
So a crowbar would be recommended, but maybe not something as big as this one. So we're going to try undoing this. There are little tabs here that sort of pinch and hold this thing together, sort of locks it on. This whole piece will come off the top like this thing that looks like a ladder.
Tabs right here. Yeah.
So we'll have snaps like that. So you can start wherever you want. What we want to do is send that upward. And again, so I wish I had a smaller crowbar. Yep.
Yeah, a smaller crowbar would probably be better, but easier too. But.
Or a old beat up flathead screwdriver that's fairly large. So what this is, it's kind of like, if you look from the end here, you'll see this frame wraps around another frame within. So there's two pieces to it. So we're just trying to take the outer side off. Here comes the noise again.
Yeah, looks like you're making a little bit of headway, but not much. We gotta probably.
Okay, I could see the tabs that actually grip. So these little tabs here are actually gripping on the inside.
If we use.
I'm going to try something a little bit different.
Here we go. You know what? Took a motorcycle tire lever. Oh, not a motorcycle, on my bike. Yeah. You know what? I got it here with this. Just using a tire lever. Helping a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I was going to start with. I think that's going to work.
Yeah, here you go. I'll try that. There. It's better.
There we are. I think that one's almost released. Try using the persuader again. Okay, it would appear that there's more on the inside portion of it. I'm sure anybody who's going to be doing this will be very anxious to see their bike. This is going to be the hardest part, I have a feeling.
Yeah, I think they're packaging here seriously, which is a good thing. So, you know, your bike will be protected.
Okay, those tabs are out. And these little tabs, once again, are gripping the inner frame. All right.
Got some headway here too.
Here we go. This is getting there. All right, so as you can see, once these are pried away, it will release the top frame from the side frames. All right, here we go. Once you get it started, by the looks of it, she wants to cooperate.
There you go. Got this tab released.
So be careful when you're doing this. These edges might be just sharp enough to cut through something. And once you've released these tabs, you'll see things start to cooperate.
All right, now it's coming apart. So. There you go. This one should be free. Yeah.
We still have
You got one more
two
tab.
right there.
One more tab there. Okay.
So the last tab in the middle, and
Looks
I
like
think
there's 6 tabs total, 3 on each side. There you go. All right, we got it.
there's the top. And now we'll just release the sides. We got a strap here holding one side in, making sure that nothing's going to fall out when I do this.
Another strap here. Strap this. Another strap behind, middle. Take that off. Okay.
All right, we're almost out of the crib.
This just comes off. I'll put this on the side for now. Plastic. All right, I guess now it's
Okay, now we just
packaging.
undo a whole bunch of packaging, yes.
Got scissors here. Got scissors will help. There you go.
So it doesn't really matter what order you do when you're taking off this packaging. Basically, you just want to reveal everything on the bike. You got little zip ties, holding protectors on the fork legs.
I'm gonna cut the zip ties here as well, so remove more packaging. Here's the front fender. Unclipped it from the back. Keep this for a little later. It looks like the handlebar.
All right, now I'm going to use a knife. I'm going to be careful not to cut or scratch anything we don't need to. So we got some bubble wrap bags protecting the brake lever here. And we just roll the lever to a nice location where it's safe.
Yeah, we got some boxes under here. I believe this would be the charger. Pull that out. And you got some rim decals, it looks like, as well at the bottom of that crate. I'll just open this up just to show you guys what's inside. But I believe it's the charger. Yeah, so here's your charger, big charger, nice handle. What do we got here? We got here a 12 amp charger, the max 1200 watts, 119 volt.
All right, so we got the charger there. One other little box here. Let's see what kind of surprises we got in here for us today.
Here's the rim decal kit as well.
So we got a small parts bits, stem pad that'll go up on top of the handlebar stem when we're finished. And we got, don't know what that is yet. Looks like it might be a number plate hanger or some kind of a brace. Here's our stem clamp and bolts. So you've got 2 stem clamps that'll go on each side of the triple clamp stem, and some stainless steel bolts.
Your B box, I believe this is the diagnostic tool, likely. The light similar to the Light BX, I could be wrong, but I believe that's what it is. But we'll find out soon.
In this small parts box will also be one of the standing pegs. One of them is already installed on the bike, and the other one is left off, probably to save space when they're shipping it.
This is neat.
A little bit of tool
Comes
kit.
with its own binder, book, fetch light, the Surron logo up front, zipper. Let's open this here. This looks like I guess a tool kit, right?
Yeah.
With
It's kind of like the little owner's manual pack that you get in a new car.
yeah. You got a little booklet here. And a sticker with your serial number. Okay, very cool. Some tools in here. Put this aside.
So one of the first things I like to do once we get a bike at this stage is to get anything that's loose attached to it right away. First thing is going to be our handlebar and handlebar controls. So I've got the bar rolled over here. I'm just going to redirect everything so I don't pinch and hide anything. So that's all going to go over the top.
Here's the keys, actually. Come zip tied onto the brake lines in a Ziploc bag.
Well, we're pretty much ready to start bolting a few things on. So I like to put a little tiny bit of grease. I don't like to dry fit any bolt unless if it's going to require some grease or possibly Loctite on other bolts. I may use that later. But for something that we're going to adjust and take apart, I'm just going to put a tiny bit of grease just on the threads. We're not filling it, we're just wetting the threads so that someday in the future this will all come apart again. So we got 2 clamps, 4 bolts. The clamps are designed in such a way that it doesn't matter whether they're front or back or left or right. Makes it very simple to set up. The handlebar, here we are. We'll nestle that into the top of the one stem or the stems. Put the bolts in. I'm just going to pre-tighten them with my fingers. These will require, by the looks of it, a 6mm Allen key. So I'm going to get myself one of those. So I have a 6mm Allen key, one that's got a long handle so I can get some torque, a ball in so I can spin the nuts in quickly or the bolts in quickly. One thing you like to do as well is when you're turning these in, to make sure the gap on both sides is the same. So don't sandwich one all the way and then use the other one to do all the fine tightening. So you may want to get down low, get a kind of a worm's eye view of it all. That's looking similar, and that one's perfect. Your handlebar position may be personal. and you can readjust it later. So you can go like full forward, which really doesn't look pretty good. You can toboggan it back, which is again not particularly nice. I like to pick a line that's parallel to the fork angle. That's a good neutral position to start with. That's where the tops of the bars are flat, and the reach to the handlebar is in the middle reach, so that you can, a smaller rider could roll it back closer, and a taller rider might be able to roll it further. Now when tightening these bolts, you want to tighten them in an X pattern. At least they recommend that. Even though this stem is a two-piece stem, still a good habit. Snug everything down until you feel about the same level of resistance. The actual torque rating on these bolts was 22 Newton meters. I'm just going to apply a little bit of tension now. As you can see, you don't have to put your elbow into it. These aren't axle nuts on a truck. They're just holding that bar straight. The bar is just going to be, you're just trying to resist the twisting of the bar. So now we got our bars mounted. Now we got our accessories to mount on too. And does this come apart into two pieces? I believe it does. It allows me to put this on without having to take the grip off. So it requires a Phillips screwdriver. Well, I got my Phillips screwdriver, and I can spin. You got two screws on here. I was going to remove one altogether, and I'm assuming that this thing will clamshell open or separate into two pieces. And yes, it does. It has a wire attached to it, so don't pull it apart. And you want all the buttons facing the cockpit. And here's a little tech tip as well. Follow the wire. If it's twisted, have the wire come at a natural flow. So if it has an extra twist or two in it, you don't want to install it with that twist in there. It'll just put more stress on the wire, and the wire won't flex naturally. So I'm just sort of going from the end, letting it go naturally, and it happens to be aiming that way, which is perfect. I'm going to put the unit back together, and while I'm doing so, I'm just going to make sure that everything lines up into its proper positions.
Yeah, I got it. It's good.
Got my Phillips screwdriver once again. I'm just going to make sure the thread's attached. You can see it's still loose. That'll allow me to put the second one in. I'm seeing a little green wire here that just might end up in the wrong position if you're in too much of a hurry. So I'm just going to be mindful of that to make sure that it stays where it's supposed to be.
Catch.
Okay, I don't want to force anything. I thought I would be able to close this without having to force it.
Yeah, looks like
As you can see, it's closing on an angle, so there might be something that has moved inside. Remember, this is the first time for us assembling this one. By the time I've done 5 or 6 of these, I'll be doing them in my sleep. So I will point out any little issues or my personal mistakes when I run into them. And I got nothing to hide here because we want everybody to have a great experience when they get their bike on the road. So I'm going to take these screws back out. I'm just going to do a test assembly. So she went together perfectly fine off the bar. So going back on the bar. What is giving me resistance? I see. That's about the only thing. Aha! Here we go. Here's our first little tech tip. There's a little hole here. So that little hole is where this little silver pin is going to align to. So I would suggest putting the front plate on, and you can see it's rolling around, and there it is. She's fixed into position now.
There you go.
Now
Perfect.
I can put that on. And just when I thought I'd be able to do this in such a way that I didn't have to get down on the floor, looks like I'm going to have to get under it a little bit. I'll put that screw in with just a little bit of tension. And then the bottom screw also in there. Just a little bit of tension. I'm making sure that this plastic casing is closing up. Or actually composite casing, we like to refer to our modern materials these days. So as you can see, I'm just using my fingertips. I'm not putting my elbow into this screw. We're not driving deck screws in. So a little bit of tension there. A little bit of tension there. And these screws are holding the clamshell together. That recessed pin keeps this thing from spinning around on the bar and ending up in a different location. All right, there is the first learning curve on that one.
But the brakes, we're going to put them on now, but I just wanted to point out that I noticed that there is, to give you a tip on it, it says up. So you know the right positioning when you put it, because sometimes you could reverse it, but obviously here you're going to want to have the mineral oil facing up too. So
Yes,
it's
yeah.
natural.
So the
right?
reservoirs will be up on the top.
So at first I thought this one was going to go on this side because the way it was situated, but it's easy to tell that way.
And when I'm turning the screw, you can probably hear through the microphone, maybe a little squeakiness. So there's a good sign of a screw that's probably going to need a tiny bit of grease. So again, on the thread, just a tiny bit. All you got to do is wet the thread. It's not a bearing. And of course, I've just dropped a piece underneath the bike, so I'll have to retrieve.
Got it?
I got that. And the screw.
Okay.
Alrighty. So the lever. All right. Okay, before I mount this, I want these cables to be routed nicely. And I have a feeling this will go better behind because the right-hand lever has more room or more cable to flex around. Again, with the up position up, I'm going to put one bolt in first, the top one in this case. I'm just going to put it into my freshly greased thread. You can finger tighten these down. You can hear there's no more squeaking going on. These look like 8mm bolts. So I'm going to make a selection of an 8mm. These gloves didn't last very long, and I'm still going to keep them on for the fingertips. So these brake lever bolts will be 8mm. And you could use a socket. In this case, I'm just using a combination wrench. And same thing, every time there's a clamp that's going to be a 2-piece or a 4-piece clamp, you want to have equal distance on each side where the bolts tension it down. And I'm actually going to back off the top one a bit because it's almost touching. So I'm seeing about almost 2mm on the bottom. All right. The levers, again, can be fine-tuned when we're finished. Generally, I like it when I'm on a bike that when I raise my arm and put it down when I'm sitting, that the brake lever's underneath the fingertip. So it's kind of a natural position. Having it down below is kind of hard to reach around. Having them up in the air like that, your hand, as you can see, doesn't naturally bend that way. By going straight down, well, going a little bit higher in this case from my angle, straight down, the lever is right at the fingertips, and there I got a nice grab. We'll start with that right now. At this point, I'm standing on the ground, and when I'm up in the seat, my body's going to be in a different position. So I'm probably going to change this again. So personal position on the levers and bars, that's all up to you. But a good starting point, if you're not sure what to do, use that tip of lower your hand, and the brake lever is just below the fingertips.
Hey, I already prepped this one, greased it, so.
All right, so this one's pre-greased and ready to go.
There you go.
Again, this one has an up-down position on it. I'll start like I did the last one. Top bolt in first, finger tight. Bottom bolt in second, finger tight. And I'm just going to snug them down, trying to make an equidistant gap on the top and bottom of the clamp. Take my 8mm combination wrench. Okay, when you're rotating this lever, there are some wires coming off the throttle control. So be mindful that the wires are there, that you don't want to pinch them or force the lever around and possibly cut a wire or damage it. The wires are pretty heavy duty and they're wrapped with a protective coating, but try to make that stuff last as long as possible. And the same thing as before about setting the lever up. That's a brake lever spacer that came out of there. It's what they ship the lever with. It kind of sets the brakes up, locked up on the bike so the wheels or pieces won't turn while it's being shipped. Now you can eyeball it and level the levers. I'm just sort of looking from behind here. I'm seeing the tip of this lever and the tip of this lever in the same position. Now I'm just going to put some tension on there, and you can see by the effort that I'm putting in, I'm not wrenching it down like an axle nut. And that's good to start. So now the levers are on.
So I think the brake inhibitors probably would be next, it looks like.
Looks like that would be an easy one to do. If that's all there is, that'll finish off our bar.
Yeah, if you want to show how it looks like, but you got the 2 inhibitors and two pins here, so we're just going to connect them, and then this rubber will go over for protection.
Now, where did they hide the ends of those wires? So all of our wires are here.
So here I got one.
Oh, I see. It goes.
Right, yeah.
So it goes directly to the lever. Thank you.
There you go.
Does it matter which one goes on top and bottom?
That I'm not sure, but we'll test it out.
I'm going to assume it's not, because it's not a power supply. It's just an interrupter. So negative or positive, all the inhibitor is doing is disconnecting or reconnecting the power flow.
There's a good sleeve here, water protector sleeve too. There you go. Just slide it over. That's how it looks like when it's done.
So I'm doing the same thing that Barry just did. One in the top, and I usually like to do the hard ones first. I'm going to do that now. Put the harder one in first. It's like having dessert, you know, you have dessert after dinner. Or eat your peas before you get into your steak or whatever it is if you don't like peas. Here we go.
Save the best for last, huh?
You got it. All right, so I've attached both. I'm going to double check to make sure they are actually on the prong. They are.
Make sure they're all the way in here, and then you can just slide that rubber.
There's a little rubber protector.
Yeah.
Also something to stiffen up the wire so the wire doesn't get moved around as much.
Yeah, it's protected from getting wet or dirt, right? So it's a good idea.
Okay, this glove's got to come off now because...
Yeah, I got it.
You got it over?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of an interference fit. It fits on a bit of a bulge. And once you get the bulge over, you're good. Because of the shape of that little boot that covers it, you might push it on and turn it inside out in a way, but as you can see, there's the bulge, and there's the lip that grabs a little bit of an edge there. So it acts kind of as a seal. And that's it there. Okay, nice. All right, brake inhibitor's on. Brake levers are on, throttle's connected. I'm going to make sure there's no interference on any of these moving parts. So the brake lever has clearance to the throttle controls. The throttle is moving freely. Again, throttle cable positioning, you could change that if you like, but I'm seeing everything is set up in such a way that it's right at your thumbs. And that's probably the way you're going to want to leave it. But again, you can fine tune that later.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is just literally a Velcro strap for the handlebar cover, right? Could probably go this way. There you go. Let's get this over so we can put that on. There you go.
All right.
Yeah, so you just Velcro the stem bumper cover.
Oh, well, I think we want to get it a little tighter than that.
Yeah.
Let's see the shape of this. If I put it this way or this way, well, both seem to have the same stability. I'm thinking because you're going to hit it from this side, there's more padding on this back side of it. I kind of think I'd rather have the protection on the side where I'm going to run into it from if I ever did. Now we get that into position. Yeah, pull the Velcro up, then you can push and squeeze, and then you can rotate.
Yeah, it's just really just like a bumper.
There we
anyways.
go.
It's not going to be.
Now we got our Surron logo reminding you of what your wonderful bike is.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think our next step now is going to be to get ready to set up the front wheel. Now the front wheel, or the fork right now, is bolted in onto there is a through axle here, and I have, yep, it's actually the axle that will be used to mount the wheel when we do it. We've got some metal materials here. We'll undo that, but if I undo that now, the bike's going to want to fall over. So you're going to want something underneath to support this. Most people may not have one of these, but a handy tool, and if it's a motorcycle shop that's building it,
or somebody that owns a motorcycle likely will have it too, but
yeah,
motorcycle.
You'll probably need a scissor lift. Now, looking at the way this structure is, and this bike weighing as much as it does, I'm afraid
that's not going to hold it.
That the board itself may not be strong enough to support it.
It definitely won't be.
And I'm having another thing I'm seeing.
You can always use the cardboard.
Well, we're going to be lifting this bike at some point. So the trick you're going to have at this point, you're going to want to support this bike onto the crash pad, onto the base here, or the bash guard of the frame. You want it to be at least probably 10 or 11 inches off the floor, which will raise that fork so that you can slide the wheel into place. So what we're going to try to do now, and I think we're going to do it kind of the hard way. I'm going to put this scissor lift off to the side. We're going to take the bike off. We're going to get it off of this apparatus, and we're going to finish this off on the floor here.
Yeah. Yeah, say. No, put it back and say. Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's going to get fun now. Something tells me we're going to need that 14 millimeter again because it looks like the same hardware as before. And
what happened with the plywood? I thought you were going to say, let's remove the plywood.
Yeah.
So it's out of there and just take it out. But
yeah.
I'm going to have to cut there because I came into the...
Oh, okay.
So start that plywood part.
Yeah. All right, so
Before I take the plywood, I'm just going to make sure I want it out.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave the plywood in because of all of the metal. If it touches anything, I'd rather have it touch wood than metal, just for the sake of the paint job and the finish.
Okay.
Details are very important. You'll have plenty of time to put marks on this bike when you're on the trail crashing it. Now this bolt is actually smaller than the 14, but this isn't a precision bolt that I have to do any adjustment on.
The bike's already getting very loose, so you're probably going to want to hold on to it get somebody
Yes.
get somebody to help you out. Probably get a second person's always recommended.
For sure. Have somebody support the bike. This part of it will be at least a 2-person job, or somebody who's going to just have to look very carefully as to what's around you so that it doesn't fall over. This bike weighs 287 pounds, probably a little bit lighter without the front wheel right now, but that's roughly where we're at. So the bolts are out. These metal tabs, I'm just going to bend them out of the way, and this bike will be almost ready to wheelie out of here, or lift out of here.
All right, she's almost free.
Now, because we're going to be lifting it and moving it, I'm going to prepare the scissor lift. Give it a couple of inches because it's not high enough to support the bike yet. And the tool I'm going to need will be a socket and a ratchet. Some of you may be lucky enough to have some air tools, which will make spinning one of these guys up a little faster. I'm just going to eyeball the gap there. We want something that's roughly the same height as where it's at, maybe a little higher, because we want to support it. I don't want to drop the fork onto the floor and either put a mark on it or I don't think I'm going to damage it. These bikes are pretty tough, so that's one of the last things you need to worry about. Okay, that's pretty good. So now the both of us
Lift it up.
are going to bring it over. How about we move the wheel over onto the floor and then the fork over onto the stand? All right, so the wheel's on the floor.
Yeah.
Okay, no, not a good position.
Ready? Now done. How do we do this?
There we go. Okay.
Hold on. You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Let me position this. All right, you're gonna lift a little bit higher, a little bit.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Okay. See,
I thought it was already there.
That's
All
why
right,
you need two people.
I'm going to take a bit of a break
It's
here.
a little bit too high, I think.
Okay, you know what? You support it.
Yeah.
I'm going to lower this.
Yeah, lower it a little bit on this. Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna jack it up. Okay, lift it up a little bit and I'll get this under. All right, we're good.
Okay.
We're good. Now we can lift it.
All right. It's all the way on the edge on the other side?
Yeah, it's good.
Nice.
Now you got room still on the other side, so got a lot of room. Great.
All right, I'm going to stop there for a moment. Make sure this is nice and secure. We're able to let go of her. So there's a couple of things we're going to do next. We're going to mount the front fender, seeing as that's probably the easiest thing to do first. Then we'll take the axle out and we'll mount the front wheel after that. Size of bolts next. Those are looking like 10 mil. Okay. These bolts are very smooth threads. No squeaking going on there. Just going to put the bolts on the floor. So these bolts are going to retain the fender. We got 4 of them and 4 washers that are kind of top hat shaped. Now these aren't stainless steel bolts, so there's a possibility in time some corrosion might happen. So I will be putting a little drop of grease on there. So again, just wet the thread. Now the retaining washers that they give you have a bit of a shape to them. And of course the bolt will hold it under. When they go into the fender, so the washers will have a raised center. And of course the flat washer, you'll want the bolt to be that way into the washer. And this little hole, or this little raised portion, is going to fit nicely into there and into the fender that way. So if you put them in backwards, they'll sort of function. But for style points, and again also, because the fender is taken, not just being held into place, but it's being torqued around, it gives you more support on the bolt itself. So you start whatever pattern you want, get one in there, makes your life easier. We got the washers with the small portion at the top. There you go.
It's the third. All right, that's good. Good. Good.
So I'm going to finish this off with a 10 millimeter bolt, and down underneath here you can see the pattern of 4 bolts. They're just finger tight right now. I would suggest actually tightening them kind of all the way by finger, because that little raised portion in the middle of the washer might end up like on the edge of the hole, and if it does that, you'll sort of try to cut its own hole in the fender. So now I know everything's nice and snug. Of course, now it's time to put some tension on it. And again, these things aren't axle nuts or anything like that. They just need to be snugged enough that they won't fall off. Now, a socket would be much handier at this point, but I'm getting the results I want. You know what? I'm going to grab a socket. 10 millimeter socket in our metric kit. We got a small ratchet handle for that. And I'll use an extender too. Yeah, that gives me a little bit more room. And you can see by the effort that I'm using with my hand here, I'm not putting my elbow into it. It's not like I'm tightening down axle nuts. Beauty. Front fender installed. We do that before the wheel, because obviously getting in there with a wheel in place would be a little bit tricky. So the next thing we're going to do is take this axle out, and in doing so, we'll need two different kinds of hardware or tools. 6mm will do the pinch bolts that hold the axle from rotating inside of the fork, and then on the side here we have a large nut, and it's looking like it almost is the same size as what we used on our stand. Oh no, she's a big one. So we got a 22mm socket. We're going to upgrade to something even bigger. Here's a 24. That's the one, and it happens to be finger tight at this point, so we can take off the retaining bolt that holds the axle in place. I'm going to undo the 4 pinch bolts there with a 6mm Allen key. There's our 6. Now these bolts don't have to be removed. They just need to float loose so that the axle will either slide or unscrew. I'm not sure exactly how this axle will work, but we're all gonna find out together now. So the bolts are loose, but still in, and the axle slides out. All right, piece of cake.
All right. Yeah, I just removed this wire from the wheel that had the end.
Okay.
The ends here, so.
So we have 2 retaining, axle spacers. They happen to be different lengths as well. So we need to decide what side they're going to go on. I'm sure if I read the manual,
here's the disc brake. So obviously, the disc brake you'll want to align it with the brake.
Correct. Yeah, the disc brake will be going onto the disc brake unit itself, and as well, inside when they ship this bike, they put a protector in the brake. So a little plastic piece is put in between the brake pads. This is to stop the possibility of pumping the brake lever, and the pads will pump inward, and if you keep pumping the lever, they'll pump until they touch, and it's possible that if you keep pumping it without a brake spacer or the brake rotor in place, that the piston will come out of the brake, and you'll dump all your fluid, you'll contaminate your pads, and things will get a little bit more expensive then because you'll have to buy new pads for it. So right now we have this set up that it'll accept that, but again, the mystery of what side does this one belong on. So I'm going to assume, because the rotor's in place, it needs a wider spacer, and the spacer, there is a rubber seal. It's going to be touching the bearing, so you're going to sort of rotate it past the seal, and then it's going to be touching the actual bearing inside. So inside of here, there's the bearing. Actually, if you look through the axle, it's more of a shaft. So this whole thing acts as a solid shaft. The bearing rotates on the shaft, and the axle holds everything in place. I have made an educated guess that the wider one belongs on the disc brake. And we'll know that for sure when I put this wheel in. And if it's either in the wrong position in relation to the brake, then I've done something incorrectly. Nope, the forks aren't bent. We just need to rotate them. So I'm going to just roll the wheel into position. I'm aiming the rotor into the brake pad. Looking at it from this side, it appears to be lined up. So this has always been a fun part, and
Well, you want me to lower this a little bit?
That's exactly what I was going to do. We're going to assume that we're not always have two people helping on this. So you need the 22 millimeter socket.
I got a 24 here.
You got a 24?
Yeah, I need a 22.
The wheel is loose there.
24 was for the axle, right?
Yeah, 24 was for the axle.
Yeah.
22 is for the scissor lift. So Barry's going to lower the lift so that I don't have to raise this wheel into place. And with everything being heavy and somewhat awkward, the last thing you want to do is wrestle with a falling bike while you got some loose parts in your hand. Yeah, that makes for a good show too. Maybe on the next episode. Nice, here we go. So Barry's going to lower that down.
Let me know when you're good.
Getting close. I'm just going to get the, okay, stop there for a moment. I'm going to get the brake into the rotor. Get the sensor there. Take her up a tiny bit, please. I think that'll be enough. Okay. Aha, there we are. That's a start. I'm just gonna, you know what, I can't resist. Gotta put a little grease on this too. So, just a little line of grease. I'm not soaking it, I'm just gonna just make sure it's got a little lube, a little bit of protection on it. Now this will go into the fork leg this way. We're going to line it up to the axle. Okay, we're close. I didn't knock the other spacer out of the other side, which can happen. So while you're knocking this through, you might knock the spacer that we placed underneath on the other side of the wheel. You might accidentally knock that out, which means you got to reverse everything we started. Okay, I'm seeing the nub coming through. I am going to get a now there is a shoulder here, so there's no sense beating it too hard if it's the shoulder that's stopping you. So I'm just going to preset that. From this angle here, I could see a little bit of the axle sticking out. So I want to get that to line up into the fork leg. And when I look at it from the end here, I see, yeah, you can see right there the axle's coming out of this. There's the spacer, there's the axle, and it's going to go into here. All right, that sound was positive. We're in.
Yep.
We're very close to finish now. So the retaining nut for the axle, here it is. Pretty heavy duty piece of material.
Yeah, axle end screws.
Now, because this is pinched down with the clamp bolt, I'm going to assume that as the fork clamp bolts hold it down, it's going to add a little bit of tension to this so it won't back off on its own. This is not a nut that needs a ton of force on it again.
And now we're going to use the 24 again.
The 24 mil, yep.
Yeah.
So I put a tiny bit of grease on that thread. If you think you needed Loctite, which some of you may know from past experiences on other motorcycles, and some of you may find out in the future that this may have backed off a bit. So I wouldn't use anything stronger than blue Loctite if you did need to use any at all.
What the heck's going on? This is not the right one, the right tool.
Oh, this is a 1/4 inch.
Yeah. Smaller than it.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm using
You
that.
got it.
All right. So I'm just putting some tension on this. And again, I'm not cranking her down super tight, but I'm giving it a bit more than all the tension that I put on before. I'm going to put my finger here to feel the axle turning. It is spinning. Whoops. Ring that bell. All right. There. Now I feel it's solid. And this is about all I'm putting into it. I'm not standing on the end of this wrench to make it so tight that things are going to explode. It's these retaining bolts that are really doing most of the work. If that bolt was to fall, if that nut was to fall, or sorry, actually it is a bolt. If that bolt was to fall completely out with these things, with these retaining bolts tightened, it wouldn't be a safety issue or a problem, at least not right away. But what I'm tensioning right now is what holds the fork on, so it keeps the fork from flexing in and out, and of course keeps the axle stable and centered. And you'll see I'm not torquing everything down right away. I can use the ball end here, spin this down a little bit. Never use the ball end of an Allen key to do any finishing tightens or even loosening hard to loosen bolts. There's very little surface area on that ball, so it will easily strip out if the bolt is tight or needs to be tightened a lot. And if the bolt is slightly worn, it's not going to have a very good fit. So here I am. You can see the amount of force that I'm putting in, which is not a heck of a lot. And again, you want to go back and forth on the nuts, because as I tighten this one, we're probably going to find that this one has loosened off quite a bit. Not loosened, but because they're both sharing the load, we want each bolt to work just as hard as the other guy. That feels good. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. A little bit of tension there. That feels good. Double check the first one. That moved a bit. Go with the other one. All right. I like that tension now. So here we are. You're probably hearing a little bit of brake scrub, and that will probably be cured just by pumping the brakes. Hydraulic brakes are self-centering, so in most cases they will correct themselves. I'm still hearing a tiny bit of noise. And everything's aligned. It's getting a little bit quieter as I do it more. I'm going to leave this to break in time, to break that, to wear that in a bit. These are precision manufactured brakes. It is a 4-piston system. Mm-hmm. So they can have, the brake pad could have a little bit of toe in or toe out at the moment. We're going to let that work itself out. Like right now, that ain't going to slow the bike down. You're going to be going as fast as this thing can go. All right. According to everything we've done, this is pretty much built. Other toys that we got. We have one peg or footrest. I'm going to put that on. There's no other bits. Oh, here we go. Here's the surprise part that I have not seen yet. I'm going to find out where this belongs. Maybe we don't need it at all. Most of these companies don't give you spare parts or loose parts that you don't need. So we have a cotter pin on here. They've already opened the cotter pin for us, making our job just a little bit harder. So in order to remove this cotter pin, I'm going to pinch it closed. I'll be able to slide her out. I can remove the retaining pin. There is a washer there too. And then you have the spring. So this is kind of like baiting a mousetrap when we put this thing on. Cotter pin, washer which was on the under the cotter pin. That's actually the washer. There's the pin itself. So this is going to want to fit in this location. And because it's metal on metal, here I go again. Pass me the grease pump there, Barry. Might as well do this now. Put a tiny bit of grease on there. As you can see, it's not a lot, but just enough to make it not squeak if it's going to. There is a tooth over here, so you want to make sure you don't accidentally put it in this way. And we got this If you should drop this on the floor and not remember how it goes, this video will be handy now. Should you mix up these parts somehow by dropping them and you weren't paying attention or didn't even notice it came apart this way, the way this spring and pin configuration will be is the spring has a hook, and on the peg you'll have this little tooth here. So that is how it wants to align itself. The spring will go through the hole, or the hole will give you access through the spring. You'll also have the pivot bolt. The pivot bolt has the cotter pin on one end and the head on the other. And for style points, I like to have the head on the top position instead of having it all backwards and this cotter pin being up near the top where it might catch your pants or rip a shoe or something. So the fun part is baiting the trap now, or getting that pin in place. So I'm going to carefully line this up. I'm going to get the pin in. And the spring is going to give you some resistance. So what you want to do is sort of wiggle and push.
Die.
There we go. She's just starting. I'm not going to shove it all the way because the spring is out of the way. There we go. I'm just going to use just about anything to tap it the way home. She's not finding the other side yet.
Make sure it's aligned perfectly with the hole, so it could be a little tricky.
Yeah.
This part, for sure.
There we go. So now she's going home.
Cotter pin time.
We have the washer, which goes under the cotter pin, so the washer on first. So here we are on this side. Just to repeat what I was doing earlier, the cotter pin goes into that little hole, the washer first, then we got the cotter pin. And I'm going to see which way I'm bending it. You'll see there's a long and a short side. I want to bend it so that the long side is on the inside of the bike, just so it doesn't hook anything, again, like pants or clothing from the outside. So we give that a little tap down to the bottom. And then from down here, we just need to bend that just wide enough. That's a pretty strong cotter pin. Let me try to get a little angle on it here. That's it. That's all we have to do. Okay, the bicycle right now, or the motorcycle, is pretty much built. We got the bars on, got some goodies on, we got our stem pad on, fenders on, brakes set up on the front, peg on, so pretty much every hard piece that comes with the bike is on. We've put the keys inside. We turn the key to the on position, and what normally should happen is our display should light up and we should have power to the bike. In this case, we don't have power yet. So for the first time, we're going to see what's under the seat and what this battery system looks like.
Yep.
So we have two bolts on the top, which is the first part that we need to undo.
Is that hand tight? No.
We're getting a little bit of resistance from the plastic.
Oh, I think I need something smaller.
Oh, I went the wrong way. Let's try loosening it. There we go. So we got one on the right side, and we got another one on the left side. Put them in a nice neat spot, keep them from getting lost. Now, if I remember correctly, this should just lift off and then slide back. There's a retainer.
I think there's a couple more bolts.
Is there? Are you sure? Let's find out.
Something's holding it.
Yeah, that's why there's a retainer. It's I believe there it is.
Okay.
It slides out.
So you just got to slide it with your hand.
So there's a little sliding notch that's going to fit onto this little nub here. So just to reverse what I just did a moment ago,
Okay.
I'm going to put this. So I'm going to put it up a little bit further on the bike. I'm going to feel around, and if you lift up, you've got it. And if you lift up and it doesn't lift, you got it in position.
You got it good. Yeah.
If you think you got it in position, let's say I just do this, tighten these bolts, let's go to the races, we're not going to have a good time. So slide it forward and
Take
lift it
out.
away.
Yeah. Now, I don't see a breaker here, but I did notice obviously the wires are disconnected. So we're going to want to connect that obviously. So we have over here the orange one first, very self-explanatory.
We have this in
by the shape
position.
of it.
Yep.
And so this is the new battery. It's a 104 volt, 55 amp hour battery. So massive battery. This one's a little bit trickier, but hold on.
There's an alignment.
There's probably an alignment I'm getting wrong here. Yeah, there you go. And then it looks like a lock that twists.
Correct.
Okay, that's to take it off, on or off. Okay, that's in. So that looks secure. All right, let's see if that makes a difference with the key. Yeah, we got power.
Headlights on, displays on.
She's alive.
And the wheel's touching the floor, so let's not hit the throttle.
Mm-hmm.
So there she is.
She's built up. We can lift up a little bit to give it a test, just to make sure everything's operating.
22.
Yeah.
Oh, tightening is lifting.
All right.
That should be enough. I'm just going to push down on the front wheel. That way the rear wheel's off the ground. And if you want to play with the throttle.
Nothing yet. Okay. Oh, we got to put it to drive actually. All right, with this bike. Probably. To drive mode. So actually what you want to do. I'm going to call here. Eco mode, and I recall there's a button. No, not yet. We're missing one button here, I think, to get into drive. It says, there we go. We got ready. Yeah. So, we're good.
Okay.
Now we could
let's turn it off so we don't have any accidents.
Mm-hmm.
So there we have it. I guess one of the things that somebody will eventually do is remove the battery. So let's try taking it out for the first time. So I'm going to undo this one line first, wiggle that out, take the main power line, so a retainer. All right, she's off again. And Barry did point out the fact that this one didn't have a circuit breaker, so I'm going to assume that they've done some modern things to the inside of this battery so that that circuit breaker is no longer necessary. So these rods are what support the battery into place. And they're kind of like torsion beams / springs. So the battery is not only going to be held down, but it's not going to bounce around in there. And from what I could see here, you'll see they go over this little saddle and then they flex down and they go underneath here. So the trick will be to get these off, and it can be done by hand. I have a feeling the front ones are going to be harder because I got less space to work. So yes, they will be harder. So I'm going to use a tool, and I'm going to try using, oh, hold on. In the box was a very interesting looking tool that I was wondering what it was. And it had a fork shape to it. For a while there, I thought it was a fuse remover, but it's not. That, I believe, is your battery tool. So this allows you to push down and torque out.
That's right. That made that easy on your side.
So now that's there. Battery, at this point, will lift out. We're going to carry it over to the bench. So she is a very heavy battery.
Yeah, it's a massive battery, so.
So there's the power plant.
Yeah, if you want to take a look over here, we can see the controller is actually right underneath. So this is the first time we're taking a look at this controller. So really cool build, which is sitting on top of the motor actually too.
Very interesting.
Yeah, if you come around, it's a cool view to see everything together, coming together. So
I see even what appears to be a cooling fan here.
yeah, yep. And there's a fan there.
And a cooling fan there.
I mean, yeah, you're just pushing a lot of power here, so it's probably a good idea, probably needed.
So taking the battery out will give you access to, well, should it ever happen, and very unlikely, to get to your controller. And who knows what the future holds for this bike. There might be people out there turning this into a 240 volt and putting some crazy controller in and tripling the wattage of this thing. We don't know yet, but right now, here she is.
Okay, let's get this battery back in.
So we're putting the battery back in.
Yes, it just drops right in.
So yeah, it seems to go in without any fuss. We got the little retainers.
This we can do by hand at this point, right? Yeah. There you go. So that's held into place well, not going anywhere.
And there might be an order that they suggest hooking these up. I haven't seen any warning yet as to doing it differently. I just want to make sure that this is a nice angle. So it's not possible to put this in backwards. You'll see there's a round side and a flat side, which meets to the round and flat side there. So if somehow you think you could put it this way, she won't. And I guess there's your first sign that it doesn't work that way. So we can place it like that. And for style points, all right, so give it a little bit of force to go down. We got the other one clamped in. That's good. We take our seat.
Yeah. So this one slides in, right?
So you'll put the front just over the middle of that. Yep. Lower it down on the back side. Slide her backwards. Give her a lift. No, you missed. Try again.
All right. There you go. That's good.
Give her a lift.
Yeah.
She's good.
She's good.
Then we had our two retaining bolts. Should I or shouldn't I put grease on it? What's the verdict?
You have been throughout this whole thing. May as
Seeing
well.
as these bolts are metal or steel, not stainless, and they're going into aluminum, just so we don't have some galvanic corrosion. We'll put a little bit there and a little bit there. And these bolts go down. And these bolts, again, they're just holding the plastic down, so you don't have to crank them down till you distort the plastic and damage it.
Horn test. Okay.
Those were 8mm bolts. I've got 9, 10. What have I done with my 8?
So I think that pretty much is the complete build. I hope you guys got a lot out of this video, learned something, and hopefully, built your first Surron Storm Bee together with us. If you liked the video and found it helpful, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up. It means a lot to us, and you can subscribe below. We always do many videos pertaining to Surron, other bikes, and yeah, follow us on our adventures here. We're going to be doing a lot of rides as well this summer, and more builds. Coming up next will be the build of the Surron Ultra Bee. Anyways, we do have these bikes in stock now. You can see it on our website, epiccycles.ca. I'll put all the product links below. Check the description below. We'll take you everywhere there. We also sell a whole lot of parts and accessories for the bikes. So anyways, if you enjoyed it, again, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Paul, if you have any final closing words you'd like to make.
Well, we still didn't find out what this mystery piece is. So I didn't find a spot for it. I'm kind of guessing that it has something to do with a license plate bracket.
Yeah, it's a plate bracket, looks like.
And it would appear. There's a lot of extra little bits that have things that could be mounted here. I'm having a feeling that it's something to do with that. It's not a mechanical component. It's an accessory part. Maybe we'll give an update on a different video for that. It's probably somewhere written in the manual. I'm going to finish tightening that last 8 mil. And again, this is holding plastic, just my fingertip. We're done. This bike's ready to ride.
All right, guys, so that sums it up. We've finished building the bike. We went through everything here. I hope you enjoyed and found this video very informative and helpful. Maybe you built the bike along with us. If you did find it helpful and liked the video, please don't forget to give us a like. Helps us out. And of course, you can please subscribe to our channel for more videos such as this. Next, we will be building the Ultra Bee and doing a whole lot of other rides and videos of races. So, stay tuned. If you want to purchase the bike or any parts or accessories, you can find everything on our website, epiccycles.ca. I will also be posting links below in the product description. Yep, so other than that, I'm going to start this bike off and take off now. If you want to just move that box for me. There we go. Let's see if we can get it. Get into drive mode. Turbo. Okay, ready. Okay, she's good to go. So, until next time, wishing you an epic day or night. Peace out.